Welcome back to the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali. We are live talking our best bets and fades of Keeneland closing weekend, Belmont at Aqueduct, and Churchill opening weekend on Sunday. I know there's a few other live streams going on right now with Breeders' Cup, but we are talking more imminent racing right now. So tune in to learn our best bets and fades, starting with James. Let's talk about your best bet of the week.
Yeah, my best bet of the weekend is going to be number 11, Windy Bay, and the fourth race at Keeneland on Saturday. Windy Bay is listed at 9-2 on the morning line and was a smart winner. I thought 2 starts back over $30,000 starter allowance foes at Ellis Park. And last time at Churchill, Windy Bay just faced better than he'll meet today. He went in there against Deck of Cards, who just a prolific starter allowance performer this year for Mike Maker, winner of 7 of his last 8 starts. He would have drilled anybody in this field if they had been running against him last time, like Windy Bay was. And I think Windy Bay will move forward off of that effort, dropping in class on Saturday. He's stretching back out to a favorable 1.16 distance. He recorded entry-level allowance win at 8.5 furlongs at Oaklawn Park earlier this year, and last fall finished a good third versus $40,000 claiming rivals going 1.16 at Keeneland. And the other thing I like about number 11, Windy Bay, is his tactical ability in a field that doesn't have much speed. That will enable Francisco Arrieta to save ground from that outside post into the first turn with a front forwardly placed trip. So I'll give the edge. My best bet of the weekend is number 11, Windy Bay, and race 4, Keeneland on Saturday.
Tough race for sure. I thought Windy Talk looked interesting as well in this field, but certainly a chance to play against the morning line favorite. Darin, what's your best bet?
Yeah, I'm a little dubious about the morning line favorite coming off a win against non-winners of 3 Life claiming in that event. I thought it looked like a pretty windy exacta, to be honest with you. So I'm in lockstep with the two of you guys and how you took an angle there on that starter event. I really like a horse in the Bryan Station, which comes your way in race number 9, down to the inside in the form of Neat for trainer Rob Atras. This horse has been keeping some really tough company all season long. It started with a big win over a next out stakes winner in the Texas Turf Mile. Then he was a winner over this course, which is big, in the Grade 3 Transylvania back in April. And then coming out of that, he would really catch what I thought was a pretty tough trip in a really good edition of the Grade 2 American Turf. He bounced back with a win in the Manila, then won the Hall of Fame, having to come into some rather slow fractions going over the inner turf course, racing wide at Saratoga. I thought that might have actually been his grittiest effort to date. Then in the Gun Runner, he was just farther back than I think he wanted to be in a race that was run extremely quick early on at Kentucky Downs, 44 and 4 to the half. And this is a look at him. Neat is going to be flying to the finish here from a really tough draw to get beat less than 2 lengths. And I just think that moving back off of this performance from Kentucky Downs, which is always a little bit of a quirky racetrack, and not everybody takes to it that kindly. This was a really weird race, with really weird fractions. Getting back over the Keeneland turf course, drawn down inside, a race that seems to have plenty of early pace signed on. My Boy Prince should go forward. Demolisher should go forward as well. Trickery from the outside wants to be obviously forcing the issue. So I'm going to look for Neat to get a nice tucked-in trip right in behind the speed here with Junior Alvarado. Work out that inside-out journey. I love the price at 8-1, guys.
I thought it was an exciting field getting Trickery. You've got, Neat, who won the Transylvania at a big price back in the spring meet. And then Mansa Musa made, I believe it was the U.S. debut at Keeneland in the spring, and then now stretching out. There's a lot of good runners in here.
Laganos won the Grade 2 American Turf. I think Twirling Point is cross-entered to Santa Anita Stake on Saturday, so might want to keep an eye out for that. But, it's a 3-year-old 1 mile turf stakes, and they got 15 at Keeneland. So it's a good betting race, it looks like.
Well, I'm going to take it over to Belmont at the Big A for the Grade 3 49er. This is race 8 on Saturday, and I'm going with number 2 Messier at 7-2. This is a 1 mile event for 3-year-olds and up, and this is a 5-year-old making has, I believe, made 3 starts prior for Rick Dutro's barn. And last out won the Grade 3 Westchester, racing today's distance, had a 103 Brisnet speed figure, highest last out speed figure among this field. And he's coming off a about a 5-month layoff. So he has been, on the bench for a little bit, but his workouts have been very sharp. And Rick Dutrow, a 14% winner off layoffs of 90 or more days, 24% winner, and a positive ROI with graded stakes. Jose Gomez is staying in the saddle, and he actually crossed the wire first the last 2 times racing with Messier, but 2-back Messier was actually disqualified to second for ear interference, but technically had a winning run that day as well. And looking at the speed here in this field, Messier's fractions last out in his final time. That final time for a mile was almost 6 seconds faster than the final time of Coastal Mission, the 5-2 morning line favorite last out in the Park Sturt Mile. So I'm looking for Messier to go potentially gate to wire here, sit right off the early pace, but then draw away to win at a mile. Hopefully get something around 7-2. Maybe that price comes down at post time, but I think this is a good spot for this horse.
Yeah, he's been an anomaly wrapped inside of a riddle for most of his career. I actually bet him in the Kentucky Derby. And I remember watching it with friends, and they were all getting excited because they jumped on the bandwagon and looked like he poked ahead in front in the top of the stretch. But little did they know what I knew, that he wasn't going to survive going 45 and 1.5 in the Derby. And then he disappointed as the 4-5 favorite in what was Nakatomi's coming out party on Breeders' Cup weekend 2 years ago. He's slowly but surely gotten himself back on top of his game. I thought coming out of the Westchester, potentially this was going to be a Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile type horse, maybe a Met Mile type horse. But he's always had these gaps in his races. Obviously, he's got some issues that he deals with. He's quirky. And you never really know what version of him is going to show up. So it's always a little bit of a stab with him. But a supremely talented horse. And when he's good, he's usually very good.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. That's the Rich Strike Derby 2 years ago, and he was like a 15-length winner of the Sham. So, created a little bit of a buzz early in the season as a Kentucky Derby contender. But I'm glad he's still going strong at age 5, and let's see if he can. It's a pretty competitive race, but I like the points you made, Ashley.
Darin, I'll switch it back over to you for our fades of the week. So who are you playing against?
Yeah, there's a good allowance race on the turf at Keeneland on Saturday. It's a second level allowance going a mile, and I'm against the morning line favorite Kehoe Beach, who's 9-5 from post position number 11. This horse is going to have one job to do, and that's go to the front. And there is speed signed on to the inside of this filly. Neon Beach is certainly going to go from post position number 3. Lady Emily Catherine at times has shown good speed. And Max's Superfly, when she is on top of her game, she is certainly pretty fleet of foot coming out of there as well. So Kehoe Beach could get parked a little bit wide. I know she's coming into this off a blowout victory, but I am always dubious of horses that win by open lengths over that Kentucky Downs turf course. Now, look, you're looking at a video of her where she can't look more impressive. But again, you don't always see these horses come out of a race like this and run back to it, let alone come off of Kentucky Downs. No disrespect to the Kentucky Down meet. It's a fantastic meet to wager on. But historically, horses coming from there just don't do well at Keeneland. They don't do well in the Breeders' Cup. So I'll take an opportunity to bet against horses coming off of monster races at Kentucky Downs at short prices when they go to Keeneland. I've done it routinely throughout this meet with some success. And I'll try to do it again here because I think this is a talented field, and Kehoe Beach is going to have a tough time making the lead from post position 11 with that short run to the first turn, guys.
Go ahead, James.
I'm intrigued by number 12, Work of Fiction for Rusty Arnold. This is a 4-year-old filly that broke her maiden last year on Keeneland's turf at the same mile distance. And I thought that was a nice allowance win. Actually, I think she had been rounding into form before she upset that allowance last time at Churchill, but the runner-up came right back to win her next start. And there's a long shot to at least take a look at in that same race.
I was going to say, James and I, we were at Kentucky Downs for that big win by Kehoe Beach, and I was trying to figure out, Darin, looking at the speed figure last out too, I was like, you must have some kind of intel with the Ragozin sheets that this is going to be a bounce for Kehoe Beach.
I mean, yeah, obviously it's a big figure, but she has been off for about 6 weeks. But you can make the case that the last time she did run a hole in the wind, she bounced next time out, even though she was off from early April until early June, so about 2 months. So that pattern of run a big figure and bounce has existed with her before. Granted, that's when she was running on dirt. I'll go with that pattern. It's a good point. I'll go with that pattern showing up again, timing it with the Kentucky Downs angle. I just think you could do better than settling on this horse at a short price.
James, I know you're taking this over to Churchill for the big race on Sunday, so who are you fading?
Yeah, I'm going to fade number 5, Tastic, the 3-1 morning line favorite in the Grade 3 Street Sense. It's the Road to the Kentucky Derby Series qualifier. It's a feature on the Stars of Tomorrow program on Sunday's opening day program. And Tastic, he's by freshman sire Tiz the Law. His first time out, he ran at Saratoga, received little to no support pari-mutually, and weekend to be a pretty well beaten fifth that day. It did get beat by a nice horse, but just didn't show much ability on the main track compared to how well he ran in his next 2 starts, switching to turf at Kentucky Downs. He won a real lucrative handicap race in his next start, and then came back and won the Kentucky Downs Juvenile Mile Stakes last time. So I understand. I mean, he's by Tiz the Law, who, won the Belmont and the Travers and was second in the Kentucky Derby, freshman sire. I understand why Steve Asmussen's giving him another chance on the main track in the Street Sense. But I can't get enthused about Tastic's chances at short odds in this spot. I'm really not too keen on Sandman as well, or even that Comes a Time. I don't really want to play that Brad Cox debut maiden winner at short odds. I like number 10 Sovereignty in the Street Sense. For Belmont, he's breaking from the outside, and my best fade of the weekend is going to be the morning line favorite in that race, number 5, Tastic in the Street Sense Stakes.
I actually love Dapper Moon in this spot, guys. Dapper Moon was a really impressive winner after a tough trip debuting at Saratoga and had to do the dirty work chasing East Avenue, who could not have been a more impressive winner of the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. And oftentimes you see in a race, when a horse just dazzles on the front end and goes wire to wire, the horse that is sitting second and doing the work chasing is usually the most vulnerable horse in that particular race because they're chasing such a good runner that's wheeling off these good fractions and is full of energy. And typically they back up like this horse did. And I love playing those horses coming back potentially against a field that doesn't have an East Avenue in it. So I'm actually pretty high on Dapper Moon. And if I get 6-1 on him, that's one of those fire with both fists type of moves for me.
James, I'm with you. I actually almost made Sovereignty my best bet. But I mean, this is a 2-year-old race, and I feel like there's so many chances in here that I could see it going well for any one of these runners that I wanted to shy away for at least for a best bet. But look at that, the late pace figures on this horse in the last 2 and then stretching out. I just feel like you're going to get a good run from this late runner here, hopefully. But Dapper Moon, I looked at as well. I mean, there's a few in here that, look like they're due for a big run.
Yeah, and Dapper Moon and Sandman, Dow Stewart and Mark Casse both had those colts under consideration for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. They ultimately opted for the Street Sense, but they thought highly enough of them to potentially put them in that mix.
And for my fade, I'm talking about 2-year-olds as well, talking about fillies in race 8 at Keeneland on Friday, and I'm going to fade number 10 Trust Fund filly, who I believe is 3-1, not 3-2, but this is a filly trained by Peter Urton, who won on debut at Churchill in a 5.5 furlong maiden special weight over a sloppy track on September 27th, and then posted an 85 Brisnet speed figure. The only filly in this entire field with just one race under her belt. The rest have much more experience. In fact, several have raced in stakes races already, and there are 4 that have won stakes races. And then when it comes to the Brisnet speed figures, there are 4 in the field with higher dirt speed figures, better dirt speed figures for their career compared to that 85 Brisnet speed figure, and 2 more that are tied with Trust Fund filly. So I don't see a reason to feel that confident in this filly with one lone start coming off a sloppy track. A lot of times I don't like to put a lot of weight in debut winners, especially when it's on an off track. So I'm looking elsewhere. White Sands looks really good. I believe it's Andrea. I don't know if that's how you say the name, for Safi Joseph. That's a horse that I was excited to bet at Kentucky Downs, but she ended up scratching from that race. So there's a lot in here that I feel like have just proven more to me than Trust Fund filly.
Yeah, I don't know what you thought, James. I thought this race was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to handicap this race was like trying to find a needle in a haystack personally. Yeah, I didn't know which way to go with it, to be honest with you. You've got horses in here that are coming off of two impressive wins. I have no idea how good. I don't know if it's Andrea or Andrea, but that filly from Florida is won by a combined 14 lengths. Trust Fund Filly also debuted with front bandages, which is not something you normally see with 2-year-old fillies. It could have been a product of the sloppy sealed racetrack, and I'll be curious to see if she comes out with front wraps on again in this spot. But yeah, I don't blame you for taking a shot against her here, because I looked at this race and was trying to handicap it from a standpoint of who I'm playing in this late pick 5, and it is hard to come up with like a sound, strong opinion in any one direction here.
I will say one thing, Trust Fund Filly is the only horse on Bristnet past performances labeled with a P. So she's the only real true late runner, but that's also basing it off of one start. So again, I mean, we don't really know enough about this horse. And especially with that speed figure, I just don't feel like she's probably won't even be the post time favorite, likely. Well, let's move on to promos and tournaments that we have going on this weekend. So Darin, tell us about that.
Yeah, a lot going on leading up to the closing of Keeneland, opening day of Churchill. We'll start talking about Keeneland. The $2,500 late pick 5, hit it and split it, rolls on through at the end of the meet. So if you hit the pick 5, last 5 races of the day, and you're opted in, you will share in another $2,500. And if you're the only TwinSpires player to hit it, you walk out with $2,500 all to yourself. So pretty cool angle there for the last couple of days of racing at Keeneland. Sunday is the kickoff of the Churchill Downs fall meet, and we are giving you a 15% win bonus there on the day. So be sure to check out the details of that and opt in. Take advantage of those winning win wagers on Sunday to boost those odds, boost those profits, give yourself a little bit of extra bankroll leading up to the Breeders' Cup. And of course, tournaments. The Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge is live in terms of the feeders have gotten underway, joined up with the BCBC. We have a couple of great contests coming up for you. Saturday, there's a $300 contest. It's the final feeder for a Sunday $1,000 qualifier. And the serious tournament players will love this one because it's got that great split, $200 to your bankroll, $100 to the prize pool. And 1 out of every 10 players who enter will earn a seat to the $1,000 qualifier on Sunday. And that qualifier is going to be pretty much your last chance to get into the BCBC without having to pay the $10,000 freight. It's also the first chance to earn a KDBC main event seat with that $5,000 value. So much great stuff going on with tournaments. The response has been incredible. We have 89 players in the $100 feeder contest today for that Sunday qualifier. So we're giving away 4 seats today. We're going to do it again tomorrow, do it again on Saturday. Just TwinSpires tournaments are firing on all cylinders and really exciting times, guys.
Yeah, looking forward to it. James, let's look at what else is going on this weekend, and you're kind of covering closing weekend of Keeneland.
Yes, I'll mention the Saturday's closing day program at Keeneland. It features 3 stakes races. We got the $200,000 Bowman Mill for 2-year-olds at 6 furlongs. It's like the counterpart of the Myrtlewood on Friday. And then we also have the $350,000 Grade 2 Fayette. That's going to feature Hit Show, who exits a win in September's Grade 2 Lucas Classic at Churchill Downs. But I wanted to focus on the $600,000 Bryan Station. In my mind, this race sets up as a rubber match, a revenge opportunity for Brilliant Birdie, who broke his maiden the second time out in early May on Kentucky Derby week and has won 5 of his last 6 starts. His only setback was a runner-up effort to Trickery in the Grade 2 Secretariat. We were there that day at Colonial Downs. That race had no pace. Trickery had a huge tactical advantage, spurted clear at the top of the stretch on an easy trip, and had enough to hold off Brilliant Birdie's late run. But I think a case could be made that Brilliant Birdie improved upon that effort. I thought his win last time in the Gunrunner Stakes at Kentucky Downs was, pardon the pun, but brilliant. I thought that 1-length victory was as comfortable as it comes. I look at Brilliant Birdie and Trickery. Maybe there's a couple others out there, but they're at a different level from Laganos and Neat and some of these others that we've seen. And one thing about it is we'll find out on Saturday, because I think Brilliant Birdie is going to turn the tables. I think he's better than More Than Looks was as a 3-year-old. And More Than Looks is making his third start this as a 4-year-old in the Breeders' Cup Mile. both he and Brilliant Birdie should be racing next year. And I think those two have the opportunity to do a lot of damage in turf mile stakes next year. Sharita is really loaded for that division with Brilliant Birdie and More Than Looks. But let's see Brilliant Birdie show it in the Bryan Station first. I'm going to go head-to-head against Darin, and we'll see.
I do want to mention real quick, we didn't talk about Hershey, who actually was in that Gunrunner Stakes and finished second to Brilliant Birdie, but that was that horse's stakes debut, and I thought had a really good run for Helen Pitt. So I'm going to probably play Hershey and the exotics at least.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys talked about it. That race has all this pace. I mean, it's going to, I think a stalker or late runner definitely has a big chance. But Trickery is a rebound candidate. I know he ran fourth last time out in the City of Hope Mile, but that came against Johannes, who is probably going to be my second pick in the Breeders' Cup Mile after Carl Spackler. So I thought that effort was better than some may look on paper, and we'll find out if those two are as good as I think they are in the Bryan Station.
What about you, Darin? What else are you watching for?
Yeah, in my own backyard. It's the New York Bred Showcase Day at Belmont at Aqueduct on Sunday. And two of the more intriguing races of the weekend for me are races 3 and 4. I'll start with the Sleepy Hollow Stakes, which is 1-turn mile for the New York bred 2-year-olds. And it features Sacrosanct, who's coming into this off 2 blowout victories, most recently a 12-length winner in the Bertram Bongard Stakes. He's going to hook up with Mo Plex, who had his 3-race win streak snapped in the Champagne Stakes, where he ran admirably, finishing third behind Chancer McPatrick, who's going to be one of the leading contenders in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So this is a really good showdown between Mo Plex and Sacrosanct. Sacrosanct is starting to give those early season funny side vibes where as a 2-year-old, funny side was kind of dominating these New York bred 2-year-olds. He won the Bertram Bongard himself by 9 lengths in his second lifetime start. So you could see the similarities there. So really curious to see Sacrosanct and Moplex hook up there in the Sleepy Hollow. And then right behind it in the Maid of the Mist with the Angels. I mean, you could not be more impressive than what this daughter of Omaha Beach has done so far for Linda Rice. She's won her first 2 light races by a combined 21 lengths. She was a 1-9 favorite in the Joseph Gimma Stakes, where she won by 9 3/4. She is facing another cliche who's dropping out of the Grade 1 for Zet. And there's certainly a couple of decent runners, but a couple of them she has already dispatched with ease. And at this point in time, she's only facing New York breds, but she's running pretty quick. And certainly the speed figures are coming back solid enough as well. So curious to see what With the Angels is as she goes through this Maid of the Mist and on her road. Maybe we'll see her in a race like the Demoiselle, and we could see if she stretches out and takes on open company heading into her 3-year-old season. But it's a spectacular day of racing. You've got 7 races. You have the return of Spirit of St. Louis facing New York breds after a really solid effort in the Keeneland Mile, in the Mohawk Stakes. And you've got a great matchup in the Empire Classic with a bunch of hard-nosed New York breds battling it out. $1.6 million throughout these 7 stakes races is up for grabs. It's a really fun day of racing Sunday at the Big A.
I'll just mention that Sleeps with Angels. I mean, I was on with Nick Tamero. We talked about on the round table after that weekend with she and Saint both ran. And Nick Tamero speculated about her connections going straight to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies off that race. And I was talking about Saint like eventually joining the Kentucky Derby trail for Brad Cox. I think I agree wholeheartedly. Both those two are as exciting of New York breds as they come. And I'm glad to see this Mo Plex, who can give us a little bit of a read on where Sacrosanct is.
Sleeps with Angels. That's a different one, James.
Oh, sorry. I don't have that stuff in front of me, so my bad.
with the Angels, but we knew we were
the Angels, not Sleeps with Angels. Sorry.
Anyway, I will talk
better than sleeping with the devil.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I will take it to my backyard, Churchill Downs. We have opening of the 26-day fall meet on Sunday, and it is Stars of Tomorrow, the first Stars of Tomorrow program of the 2 that we will have. And it's all 2-year-olds in the 11 races, including the Grade 3 Street Sense. We will also have the Rags to Riches at Kentucky Oaks Prep. And we have an unbeaten Godolphin runner in there who's won by, I believe it's a combined 25 lengths, trained by Brad Cox, the morning line favorite in that race. And then, there's a lot of good 2-year-olds that could end up being a huge star down the road, because in the history of this program, dating back to 2005, we've had more than 50 Grade 1 winners come out of the Stars of Tomorrow program, including Gunrunner, Rachel Alexandra. We've had Super Saver, Mandaloon, Mystic Dan, Torpedo Anna came out of this. Same with Secret Oath, Monomoy Girl. So a lot of big names, and maybe we'll find one of them on the card on Sunday. We'll be there for live coverage as well. And, it's Halloween themed, so some of us might be dressed up for Halloween. Abby Huffman will be there. We're going to talk to Kevin Kirstein, probably Joe Christofek and Caitlin as well. So be sure to check that out. And maybe we'll see you there later in the meet, James. I think you're probably not going to make it this weekend, but I'm sure later
I'll be up there for sure during the November meet, the fall meet for sure. And good cheer. I'm excited to see her run. I agree with what you said. That's a Godolphin homebred from Medaglia d'Oro filly for Brad Cox. Really exciting off of those 2 blowout wins. And that's an impressive list, like a bunch of Hall of Famers, Derby, Oaks winners. There's going to be a bunch of maiden races to pay attention to, because there'll be some good horses running on the undercard of those 2 stakes.
Yeah, funny story about Good Cheer. We ran a 2-year-old filly against her at the Horseshoe Indy race where she broke her maiden, and we were looking at it when the field came out, and we were like, of course, there's a Brad Cox Godolphin filly showing up. And we were trying to find out if anybody, had heard how good she was or whatever, and all the speculation. And of course we ran behind her. And now she's the 6-5 favorite in the race. After coming out of that race to win by 17. But at least our filly went down to Colonial and broke her maiden and then won an allowance at Presque Isle. So flattered the form of Good Cheer. There you go.
She's going to be tough. I mean, she's already won at the distance and by, several lengths. So I'm not sure if I'll play against her in the Rags to Riches, but you're not going to make any money, that's for sure.
No.
Well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires Jury. We'll be back next Thursday to preview the Breeders' Cup World Championships for a mega jury, I suppose. We'll have a very big panel for that, so be sure to check that out, and we'll see you next time.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence. Whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires.